Open with the sound of a single, steady, deep heartbeat. It is clear, strong, and unvarying. After 4 beats, begin to layer in a complex, beautiful symphony, swelling strings, bold brass. But the heartbeat remains, audible beneath it all, the unwavering foundation. After 10 seconds, fade the symphony to silence, leaving only the heartbeat for 4 more beats, then fade. A warm, grounded voice begins. Listen to that. The first music you ever knew. A rhythm so consistent, so fundamental, you cease to hear it at all, until it falters. Then its silence is the only sound in the universe. We speak of connection, to others, to our work, to our purpose, to ourselves. But we often imagine it as a spark, a brilliant flash of understanding, a lightning bolt of inspiration, a surge of emotional intimacy. And it can be that. But what happens after the lightning? After the brilliant flash fades? We are left in the dark, waiting for the next unpredictable strike. What if true connection isn't about the lightning, but about the steady, nourishing rain? What if it's not found in the sporadic summit, but in the path you walk every single day? This is the forgotten truth. Connection is sustained not by intensity, but by consistency. And consistency is far more than a schedule. It is the bedrock of being. Let's redefine it right now. Consistency is not mindless repetition. It is not the grim, joyless ticking of a box. That is monotony. The soul recoils from it. True consistency is faithful rhythm. It is the deliberate, loving return to what matters. It is the gardener's daily visit to the plot, not just to harvest the spectacular bloom, but to water, to weed, to simply be with the soil. It is the parent's nightly ritual by the bedside, not always a profound conversation, but a presence, a promise kept by simply showing up. It is the artist's daily appointment with the blank page, even when no muse whispers. It is the friend who sends the thinking of you text, not only when you post a crisis, but on a random Tuesday. This kind of consistency is the deepest language of care. It says, without shouting, you are a priority, not an option. This matters, not only when it's exciting, but when it's ordinary. Think of your closest relationship. What binds you? Likely, it's not one grand gesture. It's the 1,000 tiny, consistent threads. The way they make coffee in the morning, the shorthand laugh you share, the predictable way they annoy you, and the equally predictable way you forgive them. It's the safety of their pattern. You know them. You can rely on the core of who they are. That knowing is built, brick by unglamorous brick, through consistent showing up. Now, turn that lens inward. Your connection to yourself, your self-trust, your inner peace, rests on this same bedrock. Do you keep promises to yourself? Do you consistently listen to your body's need for rest? Do you return faithfully to the practices that ground you, the morning walk, the moment of silence, the journal, even when you don't feel like it? This internal consistency is how you build a self you can live with, a self you can trust. Without it, you are a stranger to yourself, blown about by every passing wind of emotion or external demand. In a world that worships the new, the now, the next big thing, consistency can feel humble, unseen. It lacks the dopamine hit of the novel. But here is its secret power. Consistency is time's language. It cooperates with the slow, deep flow of reality. A tree does not grow in fits and starts. It grows in a consistent, persistent direction toward the light. Trust does not burst into being fully formed. It accretes, like a coral reef, from millions of tiny, consistent acts of reliability. When you are consistent, you are speaking a promise to the future. You are telling the people you love, the work you do, the soul you inhabit, I will be here for the unfolding, not just for the photo finish, but for the unrecorded, ordinary, essential miles in between. That promise is the bedrock. Everything meaningful is built upon it. Without it, connection is just a series of isolated incidents, beautiful but rootless, easily toppled by the first strong wind. So, as we begin, don't think of discipline. Think of devotion. Don't think of a rigid routine, but of a sacred rhythm. Your heartbeat doesn't strive. It doesn't question its purpose. It simply, consistently beats. And that rhythm is the sole reason the symphony of your life has any chance to be heard at all. The single heartbeat returns, joined now by one simple, clear piano note, played in the same steady rhythm. It creates a minimalist, powerful duet. This plays for a few moments. But how does this bedrock feeling translate into the tangible world of relationships? How do our small daily rhythms build something monumental? That is the magic of the compound interest of connection. The sound of a single coin dropping, then another and another, begins to layer into the heartbeat and piano, building a rhythm of accumulating value. The heartbeat fades, leaving the coins and piano, which then transform into the sound of a gentle, gathering rainfall. Open with the gentle, gathering rainfall from the end of point 1. Underneath it, the soft, metallic chime of a single gold coin dropping, then another. The rain and coins create a soothing, rhythmic pattern. The rain fades, leaving the coins, which increase in frequency, building a sense of accumulating wealth. Then the coins soften and transform into the warm, muffled sounds of a cherished memory. Distant laughter, the clink of coffee cups, a heartfelt sigh. The voice begins, rich with a sense of discovery. That rhythm we spoke of, the bedrock heartbeat, it doesn't just sit there. It works. It creates. It builds invisible wealth in the accounts of our relationships and our souls. This is the miraculous principle of the compound interest of connection. In finance, compound interest is the idea that small, consistent deposits, given time, don't just add up, they multiply. The interest earns its own interest. A little becomes a lot, not by a sudden windfall, but by the relentless, quiet magic of consistency. Now translate that to the human heart. Your connection to your partner, your child, your friend, your own purpose. It has an emotional and spiritual bank account. Grand gestures are like lottery wins, thrilling, massive deposits that can buy a moment of joy. But they are unpredictable. They can't sustain a life. What sustains a life, what builds genuine, lasting wealth, are the small, consistent deposits. What does a deposit sound like? It is not a diamond ring. It's the daily text that says, "This made me think of you." It's the weekly phone call on your commute just to hear their voice. It's the ritual of a shared meal where devices are away and eyes meet. It's remembering their detail, how they take their coffee, the name of their difficult colleague, the childhood fear they confessed once years ago. It's showing up for the school play, the boring recital, the regular Tuesday. Each one seems insignificant. A penny, a nickel. On its own, it's nothing. It can't buy a moment of dramatic transformation. But you do it again, and again, and again. And then, time, the silent partner in this alchemy, goes to work. The interest compounds. That tiny deposit of a remembered detail from 6 months ago merges with yesterday's text and next week's listening ear. They begin to earn interest in the currency of trust. The other person's subconscious starts to know, at a cellular level, I am held in this person's mind. I am a recurring thought. I am safe here. This is how a reservoir of goodwill is built. This is why, when you inevitably make a mistake, you forget an appointment, you say the wrong thing in stress, you have a season of being less present, the relationship doesn't collapse. because you have a massive balance in the emotional bank account. You can make a withdrawal, and the relationship remains solvent. It remains strong. The trust fund you built through consistency pays for the forgiveness. Contrast this with the sporadic, intense connector. The friend who disappears for months, then showers you with attention. The partner whose affection comes in dramatic, passionate waves, followed by silent retreats. This is like someone who ignores their bank account, then tries to deposit a huge, irregular sum. The account feels unstable, untrustworthy. You're always waiting for the next drought. There's no compound interest because there's no consistent principle to apply it to. The connection is a series of disconnected events, not a growing, living corpus of shared time and attention. This principle applies fiercely to your connection with your craft, your health, your spirit. Writing one page every day compounds into a book. A daily 15-minute walk compounds into resilience. 5 minutes of silent prayer each morning compounds into a navigable inner peace. You are not just adding days, you are building a structure. Each consistent act is a brick. The interest it earns is confidence, muscle memory, deepened skill, a soul that knows its way home in the dark. The enemy of this process is our craving for the linear, the immediate, the visible. We want to see the balance shoot up after one deposit. We want the one heart-to-heart conversation to fix everything. We want the one workout to transform our body. But life, like finance, follows logarithmic curves, not straight lines. The most powerful growth happens silently, underground, in the repeated, uncelebrated return. So audit your relational and spiritual accounts today. Where are you making consistent, tiny deposits? And where are you living on sporadic windfalls, hoping they'll be enough? Choose one connection, with a person, with a practice, with yourself. And this week, make a conscious, small, consistent deposit. Just one. Send the text. Take the walk. Sit in the silence. Do it not for its immediate payoff, which will feel small. Do it as an act of faith in the mathematics of the heart. Do it as an investment in a future you cannot yet see, where the interest of trust, peace, and depth has compounded into a fortune that can never be taken from you. This is the divine arithmetic, where faithfulness is the principle, time is the multiplier, and the yield is a wealth of connection that can withstand any market crash the world can bring. The sound of the coins returns, but now they are falling in a steady, gentle shower onto a soft surface, creating a sound of abundant, secure wealth. This blends into the sound of a contented human sigh, and then into the warm, harmonious note of a cello. Yet without this conscious investment, a powerful, silent force begins to pull us apart. Our connections don't usually break, they gently, silently drift. Our next focus is on recognizing and resisting the slow fade of neglect. The cello note becomes lower, longer, slowly bending downward as if pulled by gravity. A subtle, haunting sound of distance, like a boat moan fading across water, is woven in. It fades. Open with the low, bending cello note and the distant, fading boat moan from the end of point 2. Let it hang in a space of melancholy distance. Then, introduce the soft, rhythmic creak of wood, the sound of a boat tied securely to a sturdy dock, rocking gently, but held fast. The creak is steady, reliable. The voice begins, thoughtful and resolute. There is a force in the universe, silent and patient, that works against connection. It doesn't attack with a roar. It persuades with a whisper. It doesn't break. It loosens. This force is entropy, the universal tendency for things to move from order to disorder, from closeness to distance, from intention to neglect. In the realm of human connection, We call it the slow fade of neglect. And the only antidote to this relentless drift is the deliberate, daily application of consistency. Think of your closest connection as a boat tied to a dock. The tie is strong, the boat is close, but the water is never still. There are currents you cannot see. There is the constant lap of small waves, the pull of the tide, the nudge of the wind. If you never tend to that rope, if you never check the knot, never tighten the line, the boat will not suddenly snap free and shoot out to sea. It will drift. So slowly you don't notice from day to day. But one morning, you'll look up and realize there's a stretch of water between you and the vessel you thought was secure. It feels far, and the effort to pull it back feels immense. This is how relationships fade. Not with a fight, but with a forgotten text. Not with a betrayal, but with a missed weekly call. Not with a slammed door, but with 1,000 evenings spent in parallel silence, absorbed in separate screens. The drift is invisible in the present moment. It is only visible in retrospect, when you try to reach for a closeness that is no longer there and find your hand meeting empty space. The same is true of your connection to your craft, your health, your faith. You don't decide to stop writing, running, or praying. You just get busy for a day, then another. The routine softens, the discipline relaxes, and the current of life's demands, of distractions, of mere inertia pulls you gently, inexorably, away from the dock of your own intention. You drift from the person you meant to be. Consistency is the hand that tends the rope. It is the daily check-in. It is the ritual that reaffirms the tie. It is not a grand act of hauling the boat back from the middle of the harbor. That's the exhausting, crisis-mode effort of reconciliation or reboot. Consistency is the simple, preventive act of taking up the slack every single day. It says, I see the current. I feel the wind. I am here to tighten the knot. This is why the small things are not small things. The daily good morning text is a tug on the rope. The shared cup of coffee is a tug. The walk where you don't even talk but walk together is a tug. The 5 minutes you spend in your journal, anchoring your thoughts, is a tug on the rope to your own soul. Each one counteracts a day's worth of natural drift. It maintains the proximity. It keeps the boat within reach. Without this conscious, consistent tending, we fall victim to the illusion of permanence. We believe that because something is strong, it will remain strong on its own. That because we feel love today, that feeling will bank itself and pay interest automatically. But love is not a monument. It is a garden. And a garden left untended does not stay a garden. It returns, slowly but surely, to a state of wildness. The weeds of misunderstanding grow. The soil of shared experience hardens. The beautiful cultivated order dissolves into chaos. Consistency is the gardening, the daily weeding, watering, and pruning. It is profoundly unglamorous. It is the opposite of drama, and it is the only thing that preserves the beauty against the constant, insistent pull of nature's entropy. So, how do we become tenders of the rope? Awareness is the first tool. You must learn to feel the drift, that subtle sense of distance in a conversation, that feeling of being a stranger to your own creative project, that vague unease that you and your partner are living past each other. Don't ignore that feeling. It is your early warning system. It is the first slight tautness in the rope, telling you the current is pulling. Then you apply the corrective nudge. Not a grand gesture, but a faithful return. You reinstate the lapsed ritual. You send the text you've been meaning to send. You open the document and write one sentence. You put your hand on your heart and take 3 conscious breaths. You pull the rope, just enough to take the slack out. This is the sacred, repetitive, utterly crucial work of maintenance. It is the antidote to drift. It is the humble, powerful declaration that some connections are too precious to be left to the mercy of the currents. That you choose every day to be an anchor. And in a world of endless pulling tides, there is no greater gift than to be someone's steady dock, and to build within yourself a harbor that cannot be eroded by time or neglect. The sound of the creaking dock rope becomes clearer, more rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. It is joined by the solid, deep toll of a bell buoy out in the channel, a steady navigational sound that cuts through fog and darkness. This act of daily tending, of corrective nudges, is best embodied not in grand resolutions, but in small, sacred patterns. This leads us to the practical heart of the matter, building rituals over resolutions. The rope creaked in the soft, rhythmic sound of a steady hand sweeping a broom across a smooth floor. A sound of simple, repeated, purposeful care. It fades. The rope creaked the next time in point 3, both careful sound, median, with a tone of practical wisdom. We've spoken of the antidote to drift, the daily tending of the rope. But how, in the chaos of our days, do we remember to tend it? How do we make this faithful return not another item on a draining to-do list, but as natural as breathing? The answer lies in a subtle but profound shift, moving from resolutions to rituals. A resolution is a destination declared from a distance. I will be more present. I will communicate better. I will finally write that book. It is a summit you point to from the valley. The problem? The valley is full of distractions, fatigue, and the sheer gravitational pull of old habits. The summit feels miles away, and the path is unclear. Resolutions are brittle. They rely on willpower, and willpower is a fuel that runs out. A ritual, however, is not about the summit. It's about the path itself. It's the step you take, not the peak you aim for. A ritual is a small, repeatable, tangible action infused with meaning. It is the how, not the what. It is the vessel that carries the intention. Think of it this way. Wanting to be closer to your spouse is a resolution. The ritual is the 20-minute walk you take together every evening after dinner. No phones, just side-by-side steps. Wanting a deeper spiritual connection is a resolution. The ritual is the first 5 minutes of your morning spent in silence with a cup of tea, before you touch a screen. Wanting to write a book is a resolution. The ritual is opening the document at 7 a.m. and writing 3 sentences without judgment. The magic of a ritual is that it externalizes the internal. It takes a vague, noble desire, I want to connect, and gives it a time, a place, and a body. It says to your scattered mind and busy life, this is when and how we do that. It builds a runway for your intention to take off. But for a ritual to hold power against the entropy of drift, it must have 2 qualities, simplicity and sacredness. Simplicity is non-negotiable. If it's complicated, you won't do it when you're tired, stressed, or busy, which is exactly when you need it most. The ritual must be almost laughably small. 1 minute of shared gratitude with your partner before bed. 1 paragraph in a journal. 1 deep breath at your desk before you check email. Its power is in its repeatability, not its grandeur. You are not building a cathedral in a day. You are laying 1 brick, perfectly, every single day. Sacredness is what separates a ritual from a routine. A routine is something you do on autopilot, brushing your teeth, commuting. A ritual is something you do with presence. You infuse it with a sliver of your full attention. You perform it as an act of devotion. That evening walk isn't just exercise. It's the sacred space where the day is unpacked. That morning tea isn't just caffeine. It's the offering of your first conscious moments to peace. This layer of intentionality is the glue. It turns the action from a should into a get to. This is how rituals wire us for consistency. They create neural grooves of faithfulness. Every time you complete the tiny ritual, you are sending a signal to your brain. This matters. This is who we are. Over time, the ritual becomes part of your identity. You are no longer a person trying to connect. You become a person who takes walks with their partner, a person who writes daily, a person who prays. The action shapes the self. And rituals have a beautiful spillover effect. The micro-consistency of a morning pages ritual builds the muscle for consistency in keeping a promise to a friend. The faithful return to your meditation cushion strengthens your capacity to return patiently to a difficult conversation. You are training your soul in the grammar of faithfulness, one simple, sacred sentence at a time. So, where do you start? Look for a point of drift. Is it in a relationship? Is it within yourself? Choose one tiny, simple action that symbolizes care in that area. It must be so small that not doing it would feel silly. Then, sanctify it. Give it a specific time. Light a candle. Say a short phrase. Do it with your full attention for just those moments. Don't focus on the outcome, the deeper connection, the finished project. Focus on the ritual itself. Honor the action. The consistency is the connection. The faithful return is the growth. The boat stays at the dock, not by a single Herculean pole, but by the daily sacred act of touching the rope. The sound of the knife chopping finishes with a final clean chop. It is followed by the striking of a match and the gentle, steady sound of a candle flame burning. A simple, clear melody from a single piano key repeats, like a gentle bell marking time. As these rituals take root, something profound begins to happen within us. The external rhythm starts to tune the internal instrument. We move from doing to being. This is the inner synchronization, when action becomes harmony. The piano note is joined by a second, harmonious note, creating a perfect interval. The sound is balanced, whole, and deeply peaceful. It fades. Open with the harmonious, peaceful two-note interval from the end of point 4. It holds, clean and balanced. Then introduce a subtle discord, a third, clashing note that wobbles and disturbs the harmony. The two original notes begin to pulse, gently but persistently, and slowly the clashing note begins to bend, to soften, until it settles into perfect harmony with the first two. All three notes now ring as one resolved, beautiful chord. The voice begins, calm and insightful. We plant the ritual. We perform the small, faithful action. We tend the rope. But the miracle isn't just what happens outside of us, the strengthened relationship, the growing project, the well-tended garden. The deeper miracle is what happens within. This is the inner synchronization, when action becomes harmony. Think of your inner world not as a static space, but as an orchestra. Your thoughts are the strings, sometimes soaring, sometimes screeching. Your emotions are the brass, powerful, blaring, dramatic. Your physical sensations are the percussion, a constant rhythm of heartbeat, breath, tension, release. And your spirit, your core awareness, is the conductor. Without consistency, this orchestra is in chaos. The strings are playing one score, anxiety about the future. The brass is blaring another, frustration from a past interaction. The percussion is a frantic, irregular tap of stress. The conductor is distracted, waving their arms at random. The result is internal noise, dis-ease. A ritual, a consistent, mindful action, is like giving the orchestra a single, pure note to tune to. The note is the attention you bring to the action itself. When you perform your small ritual, whether it's the morning walk, the evening pages, the shared meal, you are, for those few minutes, calling all sections of your inner being to attend to one thing. Just the feeling of your feet on the path, just the flow of ink on the page, just the taste of the food and the face across the table. In that focused attention, a subtle, powerful alignment occurs. The string section of your thoughts, which was racing ahead to tomorrow's worries, is pulled back to now. The brass of your emotions is asked to soften, to simply feel the air, the pen, the connection, without dramatic narrative. The percussion of your body settles into the rhythm of the action, the pace of the walk, the breath of writing, the chewing and swallowing. The conductor, your spirit, is now firmly on the podium, directing everyone's gaze to the same point. This is synchronization. This is harmony. And this harmony doesn't just exist for the duration of the ritual. It echoes. It creates a residual calm. Neurologically, you are strengthening neural pathways associated with focus and presence, while weakening the reactive pathways of scattered anxiety. You are teaching your nervous system a new default setting, one of rhythmic return, not chaotic reaction. The consistency of the external action trains the internal systems towards stability. This is why, over time, people with deep rituals seem to possess a kind of unshakable inner peace. It's not that they don't feel stress or grief or anger. They do. But they have a practiced pathway back to center. Their inner orchestra knows how to retune itself because it has done so at the same time, in the same way, 1,000 times before. The chaos is a temporary piece they are playing. It is not the permanent state of the orchestra. This synchronization builds something even more precious: self-trust. Every time you keep the promise of your small ritual to yourself, you are sending a message to your deepest being. My word matters. I am reliable. I can count on me. This is the foundation of inner security. When the external world is unpredictable, you have an internal world that is, in its essential rhythms, dependable. You become your own safe harbor. Conversely, when we break our own promises consistently, when we hit snooze on the ritual, skip the walk, ignore the quiet time, we create internal dissonance. The conductor is weak. The orchestra becomes cynical. A voice whispers, "You can't even do this tiny thing you said you'd do. How can you trust yourself with anything big?" The drift isn't just external, away from a goal. It's internal, away from your own integrity. So the daily walk is not just about cardiovascular health. It is a symphony of synchronization. The step, the breath, the beating heart, the observing mind, all brought into a single, flowing, harmonious act. The shared dinner is not just about nutrition. It is a practice in unified attention, where the clashing notes of separate daily journeys are deliberately resolved into the chord of we. Your consistent action is the metronome for your soul. It sets the tempo for a life that is not jerked around by every external stimulus, but moves from a deep internal rhythm. You are no longer a collection of disparate parts fighting for control. You are an integrated being, a harmonious whole. And from that wholeness, you connect to others, not from a place of neediness or fragmentation, but from a place of grounded, generous fullness. The harmonious chord returns, richer now, with more depth. It is joined by the steady, soothing rhythm of a breath, inhale and exhale, perfectly synchronized with the pulse of the music. They become one sound. Yet this hard-won inner harmony faces a relentless, engineered opponent in our modern world, an environment designed to shatter focus and amplify drift. To stay connected, we must now navigate the digital storm, consistency in an age of distraction. The harmonious sound is suddenly fractured by the aggressive pinging alerts of multiple smartphones, the synthetic swipes of a scrolling finger, the manic jump-cut sounds of digital media. The harmony struggles beneath the noise. John before point 5, the frantic swipe and tap of scrolling, the jump-cut audio of reels and videos. It's a cacophony of digital demand. Hold for 5 seconds, then slowly begin to filter it, as if a volume knob is being turned down. Underneath, a steady, slow analog sound emerges, the deliberate tick-tock of a grandfather clock. The digital noise fades to a distant murmur, and the clock's rhythm takes center stage. The voice begins, cutting through with clarity. Our world is no longer just subject to the natural entropy of drift. It is actively bombarded by a designed chaos, a storm of infinite options, engineered interruptions, and algorithmic currents that pull us not just away from each other, but away from our very selves. To practice consistency today is to conduct our symphony in a hurricane. This is the challenge of the digital storm. Think of your attention as the most precious resource you possess, the very essence of your connection to life. Now, imagine 1,000 tiny machines, brilliantly designed, all competing for sips of that resource. Each ping, each notification, each just check is a micro-suction cup on your focus, pulling it away from the deep, slow, consistent work of connection. This environment is the antithesis of the bedrock. It celebrates the novel, the reactive, the immediate, and it fragments our time and attention into incoherent bits. In this storm, digital drift is the default. An app's nudge replaces a friend's voice. A curated highlight reel replaces a shared, quiet reality. A scrolling trance replaces a conscious ritual. We mistake connection for consumption and interaction for intimacy. The boat isn't just drifting from the dock. It's being towed in a dozen different directions by a fleet of tiny, powerful speedboats, each promising a quicker hit of something: information, validation, distraction. So how do we plant a flag of consistency here? We don't do it by rejecting the tools, but by mastering our use of them with profound intention. We move from being users to being architects of our own attention. The first strategic move is the creation of analog sanctuaries. These are zones of time and space declared digital-free. The most important sanctuary is often the first hour of the day and the last hour before sleep. The critical bookends where your mind's tone is set and integrated. Protect these hours as if your inner harmony depends on it, because it does. This is when you take your walk, write your pages, share your breakfast, without a device in your hand or your field of vision. Another sanctuary is specific locations: the dinner table, the bedroom, the workshop. These become physical anchors for connection, where the only notifications allowed are human voices and the quiet whispers of your own soul. Next, we employ the technology of the pause. This means inserting a deliberate, conscious gap between the impulse to check and the action of checking. You feel the itch to scroll. Instead of reaching, you place your hand on your heart. You take one deep breath. You ask, what do I truly need right now? Is it connection or just stimulation? Is it information or just escape? That tiny pause is a moment of sovereignty. It is you reclaiming the conductor's baton from the algorithmic orchestra. You can use technology to enforce this. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Use Do Not Disturb, not as an emergency setting, but as a standard of living. Schedule your email checks. Don't let them schedule you. This leads to the principle of single-channel connection. The digital storm thrives on multitasking, which is a lie. The brain cannot deeply connect to a person and a screen simultaneously. It toggles, and in that toggling, the depth is lost. When you are in a ritual of connection, be it with a person or a project, commit to a single channel. One screen, or better yet, no screen. Full attention on the face, the task, the words on the page. This focused channel is where consistency's compound interest is earned. A 15-minute single-channel video call with a loved one, with full eye contact, builds more relational wealth than 3 hours of fragmented, parallel play texting while you both watch separate shows. We must also become curators of our input. The digital world is a river of content. Consistency of spirit requires us to build a filter dam. Unfollow accounts that breed comparison or anxiety. Unsubscribe from newsletters that clutter your mind. Ruthlessly prune your digital garden so that what flows into your attention is nourishing, not depleting. Your consistent ritual should be fed by thoughtful input, not the reactive output of the digital hive mind. In this storm, your small rituals become life rafts of sanity. That morning page is your daily dispatch from your own mind, before the world's voices crash in. That evening walk is your recalibration, a sensorium reset with real wind, real light, real horizon. These are not escapes from reality. They are returns to a more fundamental analog reality, where time flows in one direction, and presence is the only currency. To be consistent here is to be countercultural. It is to choose the drip of the faucet over the fire hose, the letter over the tweet, the long look over the quick glance. It is to build a life where your connections are defined not by the speed of your response, but by the quality of your attention. The sound of the grandfather clock is joined by the soft, physical scratch of a pen on paper, and then the clear, resonant ring of a single struck singing bowl. These analog sounds stand in firm, beautiful contrast to the now silent digital noise. By choosing consistency within the storm, we do more than just survive it. We begin to build something that can outlast any trend or platform. We move from maintenance to legacy. Our final exploration is about what we leave in our wake. The ripple effect, a legacy of faithful presence. The sounds of the clock, pen, and singing bowl blend and transform into the gentle, persistent sound of water dripping onto a stone, each drop hitting the same spot, with a sense of eternal, shaping patience. It fades. Open with the gentle, persistent sound of water dripping onto a stone from the end of point 6. It is patient, eternal. This sound begins to echo, multiplying, until it becomes the soft, rhythmic lap of small waves against a shore. Then a new sound emerges, the clear, solid knock of a wooden mallet driving a sturdy stake into firm ground, a sound of establishment. The voice begins, with a tone of peaceful culmination and enduring strength. Voice. We have traveled from the internal bedrock to the digital storm, learning to plant flags of consistency in the shifting sands of our days. But now we must ask the ultimate question. To what end? Beyond our own peace, beyond our strengthened relationships, what does this faithful daily return create in the world? It creates something far more permanent than we often realize, a legacy, not of monuments or fortunes, but of faithful presence. This is the ripple effect. Imagine dropping a single small stone into a still pond. The point of impact is your consistent action, your daily ritual, your kept promise, your attentive listening. The initial splash is the immediate effect, your own calm, the smile you received, the page you wrote. But then, the ripples begin. They travel outward in expanding circles, far beyond your original intent or even your field of vision. Your consistency is that stone, and its ripples are infinite. The first ripple is the ripple of example. You are a living signal in the noise. When you are consistently present for your child, you are not just building a bond with them. You are broadcasting a model of what reliability looks like. You are engraving a pattern onto their soul. They may not remember every specific walk, but they will inherit an unconscious expectation that love shows up, that words match actions, that there is a rhythm to care. They will carry that into their friendships, their future families, their work. Your consistency teaches without a lecture. The second ripple is the ripple of trust in the collective. When you are a consistent member of a community, the neighbor who always waves, the colleague who always prepares, the friend who always remembers, you become a pillar. Not a loud, decorative pillar, but a load-bearing one. You may never know that your simple, predictable reliability is the very thing that allows someone else to feel safe enough to take a risk, to be vulnerable, to believe in the stability of the group. You are contributing to an invisible architecture of trust that holds entire communities together. In a world of flakiness, your steadfastness is a rare and healing gift. Then there is the ripple in the fabric of time. This is the most profound. We often think of legacy as what we leave behind after we're gone. But a legacy of consistency is built now, in the present moment, and it stretches both forward and backward. It heals the past by breaking cycles of neglect or abandonment. It reassures the future by creating a trajectory of faithfulness. You are literally weaving a different story through time, one marked by fidelity, not fracture. You are saying to the future, here, there was someone who showed up. Here, the rope was held. That story becomes a spiritual landmark for those who come after you. This work is quiet. It is not about being hailed as a hero. It is about being relied upon as a human. The legacy is not in the dramatic one-time sacrifice, but in the 1,000-time mundane showing up. It is the legacy of the steady heartbeat, not the single crash of cymbals. And what is the ultimate reward for this life of faithful presence? It is not applause. It is a profound integration. At the end of the day, you are not left with the exhausting work of managing multiple, contradictory versions of yourself, the inspired self, the lazy self, the passionate self, the indifferent self. You become one thing, integrated, whole. Your actions align with your values so consistently that there is no gap to bridge, no hypocrisy to haunt you. You become a single, clear note resonating through time. And there is a deep, unshakable peace in that wholeness. It is the peace of a tree that has grown slowly, according to its nature, ring by solid ring. So as you move through your days, understand the weight of your small consistencies. That morning you choose patience over irritation, it's a ripple. That evening you put the phone away to listen, it's a ripple. That project you tend to day after day, it's a ripple. You are not just checking a box. You are casting stone after stone into the pond of the human experience, and the ripples are shaping shores you will never see. You are writing your legacy in the language of mundane, magnificent faithfulness. And in a world desperate for something real to hold on to, your consistent, connected life stands as a quiet testament. It says, here, love was reliable. Here, presence was a practice. Here, in the great drift of ages, someone chose to be an anchor. That is a life that matters. That is a connection that endures. The lapping waves and the sound of the solid stake blend into a new sound. Many footsteps walking on a well-trodden solid path, a path created by consistent travel. The footsteps are not frantic but purposeful and steady, belonging to many different people. They fade, leaving only the sound of a gentle, continuous wind, the sound of time itself passing over something enduring. And so our journey closes where it began, with a